Hello, this is episode 4 of Type 1 Talk. Type 1 Talk is a resource that discusses major points of what it is like to live with type 1 diabetes. And today we will be discussing the highs and lows of living with type 1 diabetes. Okay, so, um, like I said, I wanted to talk about the highs and lows today. And I wanted to start off by talking about maybe some more positive aspects of type 1, if you can think of any.
For positives, I would say like it makes me get better at multitasking.
Mhm,
Like you have to do work, you're doing a sport, you have to learn to be really quick about things.
mhm.
So like, and even like with like homework and everything, it just makes me like I have to multitask so much. It makes me really good at it.
Yeah.
And it also just makes you more responsible. Like you have to care for yourself. Diabetes in general is a full-time job. You're like working on your blood sugar pretty much every single second of every single day. So it makes you really responsible and really aware of how you're feeling. It's like I've noticed so with type 1 diabetics, especially if they feel something's wrong with them, if they don't feel like how they normally do, they know something's up right away. They're trying to figure it out. Like they're
Mhm.
trying to figure out maybe is this because, maybe my blood sugar has been a little off? Is this could be just like a symptom of stress that I'm feeling? Like they're like finding I don't know how to describe it, like they're figuring out what's wrong with them though. Like they're getting like an idea and they're just very aware of like how they feel in general.
You're very like in tune with yourself, I feel like.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like because of diabetes, I'm a lot more like aware of like this does this to me and this does this to me and this causes stress, so maybe I shouldn't do that. And I feel like it forces me to be like a healthier person. Yeah. And definitely I agree with the responsibility thing too. Like you don't like it's a full-time job and you always have to be responsible because if you're not responsible then there's consequences that like impact your health, which is definitely a big thing. Another
Yeah.
like
Like my
positive I wanted to kind of introduce is like you have like a greater understanding of healthcare and how it works.
oh yeah, for sure. Especially when you have really bad healthcare, or if like I know a lot of diabetics have really bad insurance. Like they just learn from it and they'll be like, okay, maybe I need to look over to switch to a different insurance because this isn't working out for me. I never really had that problem, but I know so many diabetics who do.
Mhm.
And like I hate to say it, but America has one of the worst healthcare systems. Like our healthcare providers are great, but like insurance wise, it is very bad. Like the cost of insulin is so bad.
Yeah,
So it's
especially
like
for
it
like
makes
first world
people,
countries.
oh yeah. And it just makes people like we have I know most Americans don't know how the American healthcare system works. They know how it works like strictly for them, not really for the people. So if they're having a good insurance policy or whatever, they're fine. They're not worrying about the lower class. But I've noticed like the lower class who are type 1 diabetic, they are more aware of how it works just in general. Like they're like we need to fine tune this. We need to work for this. We need to advocate. And it just makes them more educated on it compared to other people. So it's like we need to find these solutions to make it. We need to like lower the cost of insulin. There's some other ways we can work around it. And it's just this whole community, which is very surprising. Even then, the people in the upper class who have the greatest insurance possible you can get, really, um, even they're learning how the healthcare system works for disadvantaged type 1 diabetics. And that's helping them learn, like, okay, this isn't working for this person, even though they don't have type 1 diabetes. And it's just really bringing awareness to people in general.
Yeah. Type 1 diabetes gives like a new perspective. Like you have a new way of looking at things. You have like a I don't know, like you see medicine differently and you see like how people struggle, like you're introduced to that and you get like a firsthand understanding of what it's like to live with like an incurable disease, because it's really hard to understand what it's like to live with it unless you actually live with it.
Exactly. And I remember one time I was saying like I was getting diagnosed. I'm like, this is like so bad. Like, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna die? And I did not know how well the insurance was my family has. So I was apologizing to my family, like, I am so sorry, it's gonna cost so much money. I was just apologizing for a good solid like 30 minutes. And that my mom told me that that really broke her heart because she never explained insurance to me as a fifth grader, which I get like you shouldn't have to. But I was like apologizing, not knowing because I knew my uncle's financial situation. His is different than ours as a type 1 diabetic. He from what I know, he didn't make the best money choices. And it's not his fault, but that also led him to having bad, not taking great measures for his health. So you see that decline, and that just makes that worried me so much. Like, this is how every diabetic is because I wasn't really aware of the many different wealth gaps in our society. And I only saw one side of it. So I thought that's how it is. And it did educate me so much more as a child, which shouldn't have to happen, but it did. And it opened my eyes and it just made me go, wow. And it made me realize how privileged I am to have a family, to live in a family who has great insurance and that has access to good doctors, even if it was just by chance. And it made me want to like help advocate for others who can't do that, who don't have it, and to help bring awareness that type 1 diabetes, it's like a whole condition. You can't do it, but it can put you in so much debt
Mhm.
if you allow it because of insurance, um, different insurance companies.
I remember when I the Dexcom first came out, my insurance didn't cover the Dexcom, not like fully or whatever. And I had really bad reactions to the adhesive. It would like burn my skin and make it raw. And at this time it was only 7 days, but it hurt my skin so much. And I remember of just having to like breathe through the pain because I didn't want to take it off because it was so expensive and my parents like didn't really have insurance to cover it. So I would just like leave it on and it was so painful.
Yeah. And I hear stories about how people's insurance won't let them get a pump for like a year after they were diagnosed or more. And I just like, I would, my, like, the insurance that I'm on allowed me to get it pretty much immediately. I didn't need insulin right away, so I didn't have to use it when I was first diagnosed. But we ordered my pump and everything, and we didn't put it on until like May. So we got it around January. Like all the supplies are still like around January, February. I didn't really even use it until May, like 23rd. So it wasn't, I didn't even start using a pump. I used it like a couple days before my 1 year anniversary. But we had that supplies for a little bit before. And I was just staying there waiting. Mostly we were waiting because we had to wait for the trainer lady to come. I forgot what we call them, like just like really inform us like this is how it's gonna go, this is what you do and everything. I call them trainers. I don't really know what you call them. I know there's an actual specific word for that, but it just like it's crazy to me.
Well, I'm trying to think of some more positives. I guess type 1 has made me very motivated to like do well and to like contribute something back to society, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Um, For me, it's made me really want to strive in education because education, we live in a society where education is the key to success.
Mhm.
And I'm not, and a lot of people think I'm in it for the money, but it's like not like that. It's because I don't want anything bad to happen to me where I can't afford my own medical supplies when I'm older. So
Yeah.
I need to make sure I have a good job, I get good money, I have good insurance, and that all stems from having a good education and making good money decisions. So like I have done pretty well in school, but from the point where I was diagnosed, I just took that so much, like my education so much more seriously. Like as soon as I hit sixth grade, I spent so much time studying for every single test. Um, and pretty much every single subject, if I got like a C, I would like be like, oh, nope, not letting that happen again. And it's just, and now I'm like getting pretty much straight A's, like even now in high school. Um, and the grading system from my middle school to my high school was completely different because it is a private school. They have a different grading system.
They don't
So
have a 10
where
point
it's like
grading
more
system.
tight, yeah, where it's like more tight. Like normally it's like 90, like from like 100 to like a 90 something is considered in the A range,
Mhm.
whether it's an A plus, A or A minus. That was shortened to like 100 through like 98 was an A plus, 98 through like 97 was like an A, like a 98. That maybe could have been 96 and was like a plain old regular A. 96 to like 94 was considered an A minus. And it just like shortened it completely.
Yeah, my
So
private
like,
school was
like the
like that.
79%, I think that's like normally like an F, right? Maybe that could also be a C. But it was like 97 was for us, it was like considered an F to like maybe even like 80 was like almost an F. So like that just like made me really strive for it because I knew the only way I was gonna get somewhere where I could be comfortable, live comfortably with having type 1 diabetes was to do well in life.
Mhm.
So that made me want to be, first of all, I wanted to be like an endocrinologist, help other people with it. I took eighth grade, which is pretty much just biology for us, and I was just like, nope, not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Even though I was so good at it, because I know all this stuff. It's like, yeah, no, this just made me like biology and chemistry kind of combined. I'm like, yep, nope, this is not something I really want to do. So maybe you look into other professions, like how I can help other people who have type 1 diabetes, but not be in the medical field.
Mhm.
And that is like being a lawyer, like helping people if they can't afford it, or they're being like having to fight insurance companies because the insurance companies won't let them get something that they need to live. I could help them by being a lawyer to them.
Mhm.
I'm not exactly sure what I want to be when I grow up yet. I still have more time, but those ideas are just getting smaller and smaller and smaller of like what I want to be, like those like the box between what I want to be. Like I'm narrowing it down, but all of them still ways that I can help other diabetics.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, like I feel like in high school, I feel like I'm a lot more motivated than I think I would have been if I wasn't diagnosed type 1, which I'm very grateful for because, you know, in the long run, this will be very helpful. So,
Yeah. And I remember when I did want to be an endocrinologist, some lady says, I hope, and she was, I don't know how old, I would say like maybe like 60, in her 60s, maybe. She said, I hope you, because this is what I was like very in tune with it. She said, I hope you hear this before I die. And that part is just heartbreaking, but yet so much motivation is in there.
mhm.
And from like, some people are saying, oh, diabetes can be cured in like 10 years, which with our advancement in technology, it probably won't be, but we can have an almost cure. maybe in like by the age like I'm 30, like when I'm in my 30s, we could have a cure where you might not need to take insulin every day. You just got to give yourself like this one injection like every couple months.
Yeah.
Like it's never going to be perfect. Hopefully, hopefully we are around enough to where diabetes does get cured in our lifetime. But if not, hopefully we set some things up that let other people, the next generation, hear that.
Yeah. I've had diabetes for over 10 years, and just the medical innovations within those 10 years is crazy. Like, it's crazy what I was doing when I was first diagnosed to what I'm doing now. So I I don't know if there'll be a cure, but I think technology and innovation will just keep coming and it'll keep getting better and better. So
Yeah. And the new scientific studies, like they're trying to, now they realize that you can get type 1 diabetes. Like you're more at risk of getting it if like a parent has it or someone in your family that you're genetically related to. But you can also get it with no one in your family having diabetes. So that was a huge advancement made, meaning now, because I had to take biology and like the only really cause right now that I can think of is it being a gene mutation that
yeah.
caused this, which something goes wrong in one gene affects the entire body. Pretty much, it can happen. There are like silent mutations in cells, but yet like one little one can change how your body reacts to everything. So it's like, wow, I hope we're looking into this for what's causing type 1 diabetes, because if we can find that, then maybe we can find how to prolong it, maybe even prevent it.
Yeah, I think you can have a genetic predisposition to type 1 diabetes, but I think you can't inherit it. You can inherit the risk, from my understanding. And also, I think if someone in your family has an autoimmune disease, I think you're more likely to get type 1. Or as like a type 1 diabetic, you're more likely to get other autoimmune diseases.
Yeah. But I know, like I was at a JDRF event in January, and they were saying like they like did the study that if someone in your family does have type 1 diabetes, you are more likely to get it, but doesn't necessarily mean that.
Mhm.
Because my uncle has type 1 diabetes, yet his daughter does not.
Yeah.
But my uncle has it, my mom doesn't, but I do.
Yeah. I don't think
So it's
I
funny
don't
how genetic works.
yeah. But I don't think scientists have yet isolated what exactly causes type 1 diabetes. Like
Yeah,
the research, there is a lot of research being done, but you know, I feel like understanding how it happens would be a good way of preventing it.
yeah. Because maybe they don't solve it for us, but they can prevent other people from ever getting it. And like that's good enough for me.
Yeah,
Like like even with
like polio.
polio.
Yeah,
Yeah. With the what do you call like the
vaccine.
yeah, there's that, but there was also this contraption that they put people in. They use like negative pressure to make people lungs inflate
Mhm.
and be able to breathe that way, like before ventilators. It was like negative and they use positive to let it out. The iron lung, that's what it is. It's really phased out now because they found a way to prevent people who have polio from ever needing the iron lung.
Mhm.
They do the vaccine, they found that way. So if they can find that for type 1 diabetes, I'm okay with having it if that means future generations won't
Yeah,
have it. That like people, I think going into the negative aspects of having type 1 diabetes, everyone thinks that we would do anything to not have type 1 diabetes, which I mean, yes, that is true, completely true. We would not want to have this
Mhm.
disease. Like it's an autoimmune disease. We do not want it. Like we no, that is true. But we would also, what we would give for other people to not have it, like we would sacrifice, like, oh yeah, I'll have it if that means like a million people will not have it.
Yeah.
Like that, like I think people always like assume like, oh, you don't want to have it. But if I have it and that means so like the rest of the world does not have it, I will make that sacrifice because I know that I have the technology made right now that is going to allow me to live
I
without
saw
it. And I
this.
think that's like a misconception people have that is pretty
Yeah.
negative.
I saw this thing online once that said, like, if there's a cure for type 1 tomorrow, I'd take it immediately. But if I could prevent, like, never having been diagnosed with type 1, I wouldn't have because it made me who I am today. I'm not sure
Yeah,
if you agree with that, but I feel like I do.
yeah. Like I would never want it to begin with, but it made me who I am. Like it has affected my life so much, like negative and positive. But even negatively, it has made me a stronger person.
Mhm.
Like it has made me like bad thing is it has made some of my parts of my body where I put in my pump, it has made those areas a little bit numb.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I now know where pretty much every single nerve in the area where I put my CGM, my pump, I know a good area of where my nerves are because of how much it hurts when I get it close to a nerve. So I kind of have like a little like idea of where they are, which
Mhm.
the normal person doesn't have that. I think that's pretty cool. Kind of weird, but still pretty cool.
Yeah.
I kind of know where like some nerves in my body are, which like what? That is just crazy, but also pretty cool to me. I don't know if other people find that cool. It's kind of cool for me though.
Yeah. I think it's kind of cool.
The negative aspects, it hurts. Um, we have it to where all these chunky things, these CGM and like pumps, and they can hurt. Whether it's because we have to put them in or just because maybe we're wearing them when we're sleeping, we turn a certain way, we wake up with painful adhesive rips.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so painful. With if you're still doing finger pricks and insulin via pens, still hurts. You still have to shove a needle in your body. Like
I
especially if you're doing pens, like you have to shoot a needle in you pretty much like every single time you want to eat, of course, for long acting insulin. And then for finger sticks, like you test your blood sugar, and you have to test your blood sugar a lot throughout the day.
mhm. Yeah, I can't stand finger sticks anymore. Okay, I do.
Yeah. Like I still do them whenever I change my Dexcom just to make sure it's accurate. But even then, they hurt.
And I feel like I'm so used
And
to
a
having,
lot of the times it's so hard to get out blood.
yeah. And I'm so used to having like the Dexcom. When I have to do finger sticks, I'll check like 4 times an hour. And I'm like, don't need to check this much. But yeah.
Yeah. And also like, negative aspects, it has made me pretty stressed. And I feel like test anxiety, things like that, like normal things you do versus like stress we normalize as anxiety. But like, yeah, I have anxiety over my blood sugar.
Mhm.
That's pretty much like the exact sole reason I do have anxiety. Like I'm pretty much always worrying about it. And it's kind of hard for me to fall asleep at night because of that. So I do have like a somewhat of insomnia because like I'm always just like so worried. And I go low a lot throughout the night, which is
So do
really,
I.
really weird. And it's like I've decreased my basal quite a lot throughout the summer. And
Yeah.
just in general, because like the time I actually get tired, like when I go to bed, I end up going low. And so I have to have like glucose tabs that just makes me more awake because I'm still trying to get over the feeling like, wow, I just do not feel like good enough to go to bed right now. Or I have to wake up super early because my blood sugar's going up and I can't pull back my sleep after that. And
Or
it's just, or I have to be up in like another like 30 minutes. I know I'm not gonna be able to get like a little bit of sleep in. Because like you're trying to manage waistline on that. It's just so hard and that's pretty bad about
be-
that.
being low and half asleep is like one of the strangest feelings ever. It's like a terrible feeling but it's so hard to describe. It's worse than being like low and awake because
Yeah.
yeah.
I just consider it like zombie mode. Like you literally feel like a zombie. You pretty much act like a zombie.
Mhm.
Like I remember my dad came into my room one time because I was low. He gave me a glucose tab. Apparently I took it. He thought I ate it. I did not. I woke up and I found it right next to me in the bed. And like we're freaking out 'cause I'm going like now like I'm in like the 50s. And they're like, you didn't have the glucose tab when you were like in the 80s? I'm like, You gave me one?
Yeah. There have been times in the morning where I was like, oh, I was low last night. Like, oh, that's why the juice box is there.
Yeah, it's like we don't realize half things because like we're so asleep and like we have to even before going to bed, I triple check my alarms to make sure they're gonna go off, they're noisy, they're loud, they're enough to actually wake me up.
Mhm.
Because I've noticed, especially now throughout the summer, when I'm asleep, I am pretty much dead asleep.
Yeah. I don't
There
know.
are
I feel like
very few sounds that can actually wake me up and make me like not half a zombie. But I'm always making sure, like my volume's completely up. I sometimes even have to connect it to a speaker. Like I'm like, should I do this? Should I not? And of course, the nights where I actually do put it up to a speaker, I am not low.
I mean, I feel like I have the
Mm,
opposite problem. Like I used to be a lot deeper of a sleeper. And now, because I'm always like worried about being low, I feel like any noise will wake me up, which I feel like is a problem.
which like I'm kind of yeah, we used to like do the opposite of me. Like I cannot because I always go lower on like 3 a.m. So I cannot. It's really hard for me to fall asleep before 3 a.m.
Mhm.
Like if I do end up like I'm really tired, I think I'm gonna go to bed now. I will have a glucose tab and I'll still end up going low around 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Even though I decreased my basal so much for that time. And I don't know. And of course with decreasing the insulin, you have to make sure that you have to give it some time to adjust, your body to adjust to it, which is just like I don't want to go low, but
Whenever I decrease like my basal, my blood sugar will be like low all all night, like, and then it'll be like high all day. And I'm like, and at like night, I'll just eat like anything and everything to bring it up. And during the day, I'll eat like nothing and it just won't go down. And I'm like, can we like just cooperate for once?
yeah. Yeah, I feel that. The people that I have a pump so I can like set certain times. It
Mm,
can be like certain like I get like point 0.9 every hour or so between this time.
mm,
Like this time and then this time it's a little bit higher, a little bit lower. So I like that about the pump. So I feel like I've just noticed it's a lot easier for me to um manage my blood sugar that way. I know some people don't like it, the pump, or a pump at all. I know some people prefer needles. And I think that even if you are on a pump or if you are on needles, I like, I don't know, I'm thinking like you have to have like a balance. Like to where like you gotta make sure you're not poking yourself too often, but also you're not poking yourself not often enough. Like that's why like they always say like, oh yeah, you gotta change spots, like different locations. And like even then, like you still get scars and those areas will just hurt so much after it. Because I remember when I was on needles, I did my stomach a couple times and the areas of my stomach that I did, they just hurt so much.
yeah.
Like that's why always listen to your doctors when they say move it around, move it around. You have to.
Mhm.
I forgot I did my stomach for a bit. So then I put in like the area where I did it the time before and it just hurt so much. So you
Yeah.
gotta remember all these things.
I feel like I do my arms a lot. And like my shirts, like the cap sleeves underneath, pretty much all my shirts have like blood stains because of just like injecting it in the same spot and it bleeding.
Yeah. Like even if you're on a pump, you still have to take some time where you just like go on like maybe like a month or so of just needles.
Mhm.
Like I haven't done that yet, but I've been talking to my parents about it for a while. I'm like, I think I might just do needles for a summer. And I realized, oh no, that means I have to do long acting insulin too. Oh man, cause I normally did when I was on the pens. I hated doing injections in my thighs, and I only did basal in my thighs for that reason. Like there's so much space to like work around, so I can do like one here, like on the side of it. I can do the one on the other side, and like switch them. So like I feel like I always did them there once a day, just be over with it. But the pens, it was so hard for me at the time to do my arms. Like, I mostly like worked around my stomach, went into some of my thighs, and then I did as much as my arm as I could. I would had to get help from that. So I normally did those around the time where I was with my parents, my stomach at the times where I was not, and it was just like crazy. So I remember that I'm like, I don't want to really do needles anymore. But at the times like I kind of want to take a break from a pump.
If you're gonna do needles, do it in the summer because if you have to wear pants and shirts and like long sleeves and coats and stuff, it's hard to do injections. It's a lot more inconvenient.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. Especially if you wear a school uniform or like you're dealing with school dress codes. Oh
yeah.
my.
Like having to unbutton those shirts and like pull up, it's,
Yeah.
it's fun.
I'm glad my school has short sleeve uniforms for that exact reason. Like even if, let's say if I do have to change my Omnipod because it goes bad and I have it on my arm, just lift up the sleeve a little bit and I can just tear it away.
Mhm.
And I do like how we though in a society we are becoming like more aware of just like adding pockets to things. I know a lot of dresses do not have pockets, but now we're like, yeah, we should have pockets. And I feel like it's not exactly, I'm not adding pockets necessarily for diabetics, mostly just people that have their phones in. Like, you realize how if you give a diabetic a pocket, you do not know how much stuff they can fit into one.
Yeah.
And they gave me this really small, like I had this like really small pocket one time. No one knows how I did it. I don't even know how I did it. It was like a very small little pocket in a jacket. I managed to fit like couple managed to fit an entire container of glucose tabs, juice, and I just had my phone standing upwards. Wasn't necessarily the best idea, no, but it stayed. It was deep enough where I could just like shove it in there, and my PDM just like right behind it. So it was like my phone was holding my PDM kind of like that. It was pretty funny. I don't know how I did it, how it even stayed, but we find a way to work with what we have. So that's like actually a positive.
Yeah.
Like,
When you find clothes that just like have good pockets or just work, then you like wear them much more.
yeah. And like society I think is becoming more like aware of type 1 diabetes and like now they're trying to like disassociate like okay there's two types now. Like will they forget which type is which? Yes. That happens quite a lot. They mix things up. But they are now like learning.
Yeah. In
And
my
they're
health
just like,
class, we learned about
okay,
the different diabetes, which I thought was so crazy. Like we have health for like 6 weeks and we're spending a week learning about type 1 and type 2 diabetes and like the differences and stuff.
yeah. And of course there are a lot of pushbacks like with people. I think McDonald's put this ad one time. It's have this, like this can something with diabetes, like an ad like a Big Mac or something, I think. I'm pretty sure every diabetic out there has like heard of this ad or at least seen a picture of it. I don't remember. I think it's like a couple months ago or maybe even a year. And that was like a huge pushback. Like we fought so hard to get like information through like this great, you got this. People are trying to understand and learn. And then of course McDonald's has to come just add and like pushes everything back that we've done. Like we've worked so hard to like push the narrative like you cannot get diabetes by eating too much fast food or too much sugar.
Mhm.
And McDonald's just pushes that back, which I'm like, no hate to McDonald's, but don't worsen people's lives because you were trying to push a good narrative through the true narrative, and you're just like false narrative check.
Yeah. When I tell people like what I have, most of the time I'll be like, oh, I have type 1. And I like won't, I don't know. Like I'll just be like, oh, I have type 1. Or if it's the first time I'm telling them, I'll be like, I have type 1 diabetes, and then just refer to it as type 1 for like the rest of time. Just to like make that
I mean, even
distinction
though,
for me.
yeah, especially because people always like assume like you can tell someone you have type 1 diabetes and they'll just hear diabetes
Mhm.
and they'll automatically think type 2. So like where we just say type 1 because it is necessarily the type, like I think at the same time like we're doing it to kind of distance ourselves from the narrative
Mhm.
of like diabetes. Like we like society has this assumption that, oh, diabetes, oh, you eat too much sugar, you eat too much McDonald's, you're obese, whatever. So I think by like saying what type you have, you're not only like disassociating yourself from that idea, but in a way it's like we're kind of saying like we're type 1, not diabetes.
It just allows you to like explain what you have before introducing the diabetes part.
Yeah. And like it also like helps like push back the negative, like the narrative. Like so like you have type 1, I'm gonna Google that, not and they'll hear just type 1. They won't hear the diabetes part because you're not saying it. So they'll look more like, oh, you have type 1. I'm gonna Google what that is. So like it's just like educating people. And that even helps so many people like who are newly diagnosed because I met a couple of people who were newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and they always try to distance themselves from it, like referring to like, oh, they have it. And I was in that mindset too when I was like first diagnosed. Like the first like a month or so, it's like I'm trying to disassociate myself. I'm like, yes, I have it, but it's not going to define me. Like I'm pushing that away. And now I'm like, it's just a part of me. Like it doesn't define me. I know that now. Like it doesn't define me, but it is something I have that makes me who I am.
Yeah.
But it's like newly diagnosed people, they're distancing themselves from it. And like we just need to like, okay, this is a part of us. It makes us who we are, but it doesn't necessarily define who we are. It's just something that we have to deal with.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Type 1 Talk. In the next episode, we will be discussing misconceptions with type 1 diabetes.